Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our what is this?
Five,
Five?
five.
I want to say five. I want to say five. Our fifth team takeover night. We are so happy to have everyone here. This is going to be a very, very impactful and very, very relevant conversation. For those who don't know, I'm Kalia.
And I'm Jamir.
And we are your virtual village 2020 influencers with clever communities in action. And what this means is that we're just teenagers involved in our community, giving our input on things that are happening in our culture while also staying connected to our roots in literacy. Thank you. While also staying connected to our roots in literacy and remaining rooted in literature and cultural affirmation. So, before we even get started, we've got a lot of support and we thank y'all and we love y'all for that. But can you really call yourself a literacy gang member? Are you really in tune with your true literacy gang self if you don't have any merch? Can
Merch.
you say you're part of the literacy gang?
Right here. That's my shirt right there.
Right there?
Right there.
Right there.
$30.
So if you want to make sure you're rocking this premium merchandise right here, like us, make sure you go to clevercommunities.bigcartel.com and purchase a shirt. And for this week, all purchases, all shirts sold, some of the proceeds will come back to us. So if you want to support us, if you want to make sure that our future is super bright and super funded, make sure you buy a shirt. And also don't forget to check out our Juneteenth challenge. Today is day 10, which is sit down with your family and discuss financial literacy. So if you haven't sat back today and discussed the importance of financial literacy with your family or just with people, your friends, your community, make sure you do that today. So don't forget, clevercommunities.bigcartel.com. Make sure you guys cop a shirt. It's the most important thing to do.
Shirt and the challenge.
So, another announcement. Big one. Big one. Super big. Our internship is rounding a close. We are coming to a close with the Clever Communities in Action Virtual Village 2020 Influence Internship. So, with that being said, we would just like to thank everyone for their extended support. This extended family has been the best. We have made some lifelong friends and some lifelong family members within this influencer group and within the virtual village. So next week is our last week as interns, and we love you guys. So we just wanted to make sure that we got that out there, how much this internship meant to us, how much we have grown, the skills we have learned. We would like to thank all of you for supporting us. And I'm like real sad. I'm real sad because I love this internship. Like I hit home. This is the best job. Like Jamir always says, this is my favorite job. I love going to work. So I think that's it for the announcements, Jamir. Did I get everything?
Yeah, we got everything. Just wanted to double that down and just say that, like Kalia said, some of the proceeds from the purchases from the website do come back to us, but more importantly, they come back to you in a different way, because the work of Clever Communities in Action is community engagement and making sure that literature is pushed for our Black youth. So a majority of those funds and those proceeds go back to Clever Communities. So the things like Virtual Village and the literacy programs with the barbershops, now that things are opening back up, continue to expand. I mean, we got people in all different types of states, from Alabama all the way up to Michigan and everywhere in between, and all the way out to the West Coast. So we want to make sure that this virtual village is the best it can be. And when it is, we want to make sure that everybody knows where you at. So make sure you get one of these shirts. So, but that way people know what gang you in, the literacy gang.
The real literacy.
The real one, man. But that's all from me. And
Yes. So without further ado, as we said before, Clever Communities in Action is an organization deeply rooted in literature, and not just literature, African American literature, so culturally affirming literature. So what better way to kick off the show than with some reading? So I'm going to go ahead and kick myself off the screen so Jamir can read us a piece before we get into our first topic.
All right. She just put me on the spot like that. But like we said, the mission of Clever Communities in Action is culturally affirming literature, not just in general, but with an emphasis on the youth. And I feel like a lot of people, and the excerpt I'm about to read is from My Bondage and My Freedom by Frederick Douglass here. And I really enjoy this book because it encapsulates what being enslaved was, and you can really see the similarities between being enslaved and our current situations today, which is why I wanted to read this excerpt. It's from pages 146 to 150, and this right here is truly special to me because this is where we see that Douglas becomes himself. This is the man that we all hear about in the history books, the great orator, the abolitionist, the first crusader for civil rights for Black people in America. Truly one of this nation's founding fathers. And this is where we see it all come together. So I'll begin. All went well with me till Monday morning. And then, whether the root had lost its virtue, or whether my tormentor had gone deeper into the black art than myself, as was sometimes said of him, or whether he had obtained a special indulgence for his fateful Sabbath day's worship, it is not necessary for me to know, or to inform the reader. But this I may say, the pious and benignant smile which graced Covey's face on Sunday wholly disappeared on Monday. Long before daylight, I was called up to go and feed, rub, and curry the horses. I obeyed the call, and would have so obeyed it had it been made at an earlier hour, for I had brought my mind to a firm resolve. During that Sunday's reflection, viz., to obey every order, however unreasonable, if it were possible. And if Mr. Covey should then undertake to beat me, to defend and protect myself to the best of my ability. My religious views on the subject of resisting my master had suffered a serious shock by the savage persecution to which I had been subjected, and my hands were no longer tied by my religion. Master Thomas's indifference had severed the last link. I had now to this extent backslidden from this point in the slave's religious creed, and I soon had occasion to make my fallen state known to my Sunday pious brother, Covey. Whilst I was obeying his order to feed and get the horses ready for the field, and when in the act of going up the stable loft for the purpose of throwing down some blades, Covey sneaked into the stable in his peculiar snake-like way, and seizing me suddenly by the leg, he brought me to the stable floor, giving my newly mended body a fearful jar. I now forget my roots and remembered my pledge to stand up in my own defense. The brute was endeavoring skillfully to get a slip knot on my legs before I could draw up my feet. As soon as I found what he was up to, I gave a sudden spring. My 2 days' rest had been of much service to me, and by that means, no doubt, he was able to bring me to the floor so heavily. He was defeated in his plan of tying me. While down, he seemed to think he had me very securely in his power. He little thought he was, as the rowdies say, in for a rough and tumble fight. But such was the fact. Whence came the daring spirit necessary to grapple with a man who 8 and 40 hours before could, with his slightest word, have made me tremble like a leaf in a storm? I do not know. At any rate, I was resolved to fight. And what was better still, I was actually hard at it. The fighting madness had come upon me, and I found my strong fingers firmly attached to the throat of my cowardly tormentor, as heedless of consequences at the moment, as though we stood as equals before the law. The very color of the man was forgotten. I felt as supple as a cat, and was ready for the snakish creature at every turn. Every blow of his was parried, though I dealt no blows in turn. I was strictly on the defensive, preventing him from injuring me, rather than trying to injure him. I flung him on the ground several times, when he meant to have hurled me. Hurled me there. I held him so firmly by the throat that his blood followed my nails. He held me, and I held him. All was fair thus far, and the contest was about equal. My resistance was entirely unexpected, and Covey was taken aback by it, for he trembled in every limb. "Are you going to resist, you scoundrel?" said he, to which I returned a polite, "Yes, sir," steadily gazing my interrogator in the eye to meet the first approach or dawning of the blow, which I expected my answer would call forth. But the conflict did not long remain thus equal. Covey soon cried out lustily for help, not that I was obtaining any marked advantage over him or was injuring him, but because he was gaining none over me and was not able, single-handed, to conquer me. He called for his cousin Hughes to come to his assistance, and now the scene was changed. I was compelled to give blows as well as to parry them, and since I was, in any case, to suffer for resistance, I felt, as the musty proverb goes, that I might as well be hanged for an old sheep as a lamb. I was still defensive towards Covey, but aggressive towards Hughes, and at the first approach of the latter, I dealt a blow in my desperation, which fairly sickened my youthful assailant. He went off, bending over with pain and manifesting no disposition to come within my reach again. The poor fellow was in the act of trying to catch and tie my right hand, and while flattering himself with success, I gave him the kick which sent him staggering away in pain, at the same time that I held Covey with a firm hand. Taken completely by surprise, Covey seemed to have lost his usual strength and coolness. He was frightened and stood, puffing and blowing, seemingly unaware to command words or blows. When he saw that poor Hughes was standing, half bent with pain, his courage quite gone, the cowardly tyrant asked if I meant to persist in my resistance. I told him I did not mean to resist, come what might, that I had been by him treated like a brute during the last 6 months, and that I should stand it no longer. With that, he gave me a shake and attempted to drag me toward a stick of wood that was lying just outside the stable door. He meant to knock me down with it, but just as he leaned over to get the stick, I seized him with both hands by the collar, and with a vigorous and sudden snatch, I brought my assailant harmlessly his full length on the not over clean ground, for we were now in the cow yard. He had selected the place for the fight, and it was but right that he should have the advantages of his own selection. By this time, Bill, the hired man, came home. He had been to Mr. Hemsley's to spend the Sunday with his nominal wife and was coming home on Monday morning to go to work. Covey and I had been skirmishing from before daybreak till now that the sun was almost shooting his beams over the eastern woods, and we were still at it. I could not see where the matter was to terminate. He evidently was afraid to let me go, lest I should again make off to the woods. Otherwise, he would probably have obtained arms from the house to frighten me. Holding me, Covey called upon Bill for assistance. The scene here had something comic about it. Bill, who knew precisely what Covey wished him to do, affected ignorance and pretended he did not know what to do. "What shall I do, Mr. Covey?" said Bill. Take hold of him, said Covey, with a toss of his head, peculiar to Bill, he said. "Indeed, Mr. Covey, I want to go to work." "This is your work," said Covey. "Take hold of him." Bill replied with spirit, "My master hired me here to work and not to help you whip Frederick." It was now my turn to speak. "Bill," said I, don't put your hands on me." To which he replied, "My God, Frederick, I ain't going to teach you." And Bill walked off, leaving Covey and myself to settle our matters as best we could. But my present advantage was threatened when I saw Caroline, the slave woman of Covey, coming to the cow yard to milk, for she was a powerful woman and could have mastered me very easily, exhausted as I now was. As soon as she came into the yard, Covey attempted to rally her to his aid. Strangely, and may I add, fortunately, Caroline was in no humor to take a hand in any such sport. We were all in open rebellion that morning. Caroline answered the command of her master to take hold of me, precisely as Bill had answered. But in her, it was a greater peril so to answer. She was the slave of Covey, and he could do what he pleased with her. It was not so with Bill, and Bill knew it. Samuel Harris, to whom Bill belonged, did not allow his slaves to be beaten unless they were guilty of some crime which the law would punish. But poor Caroline, like myself, was at the mercy of the merciless Covey. Nor did she escape the dire effects of her refusal. He gave her several sharp blows. Covey at length, 2 hours had elapsed, gave up the contest. Letting me go, he said, puffing and blowing at a great rate, "Now, you scoundrel, go to your work. I would not have whipped you half so much as I have had you not resisted." The fact was, he had not whipped me at all. He had not, in all the scuffle, drawn a single drop of blood from me. I had drawn blood from him. And even without this satisfaction, I should have been victorious, because my aim had not been to injure him, but to prevent him from injuring me. During the whole 6 months that I lived with Covey, after this transaction, he never laid on me the weight of his finger in anger. He would occasionally say he didn't want to have to get to hold of me again, a declaration which I had no difficulty in believing, and I had a secret feeling which answered, "You need not wish to get hold of me again, for you will likely for you will be likely to come off worse in a second fight than you did in the first. Well, my dear reader, this battle with Mr. Covey, undignified as it was, and as I fear my narration of it is, was the turning point in my life as a slave. It rekindled in my breast the smoldering embers of liberty. It brought up my Baltimore dreams and revived the sense of my manhood. I was a changed being after that fight. I was nothing before. I was a man now. It recalled to my life my crushed self-respect and my self-confidence, and inspired me with a renewed determination to be a freeman. A man without force is without the essential dignity of humanity. Human nature is so constituted that it cannot honor a helpless man, although it can pity him. And even this it cannot do long if the signs of power do not arise. Frederick Douglass. Really a powerful scene that you could spend about 70 shows really parsing over, but is wow, like
wow. Wow.
a powerful scene, man.
So that was extremely powerful, and there was a lot of symbolism within it. Even though at the time it was very real for them, now it's a lot of symbolism that can be pulled from that. So, in short, what was your motivation behind picking this specific piece to showcase to us tonight?
I would definitely say that the reason why I wanted to open with this piece from Douglass is because a lot of us, and especially in a time like this with so much social turmoil and strife, we see the force that he was talking about. We see the people going out into the streets. We see people affirming Black people. We see people coming to clever communities in action. People are fighting back against the systems of white supremacy and systemic racism. This is why I wanted to say that, because for those of us who are still on the sidelines and watching, we have to understand that we need this force. And it's not just the fact that Douglass was actively fighting white supremacy. It's key to note that the Black people there who were also enslaved and also were at risk of being subjected to torture and torment, they sided with him in his fight. And that sense of unity, that sense of kinship, that sense of brotherhood and sisterhood really just, like I said, man, you could spend hours parsing just that passage alone, because the reclamation of one's humanity came not from Frederick just fighting, but also from his brothers and sisters aiding his struggle. And I feel like that's what we need. We need to understand that it's not going to be given to us. We need to take it in whatever form that shall be. But there needs to be a we when it comes with that. It can't be one of us. We need, because they're strong members, but as a community, we are stronger. And that's why I wanted to give that with us today, because it's truly just a beautiful word right there. And that's probably one of my favorite passages in literature.
So a dope passage with a dope message behind it. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I see that our virtual village enjoyed it too. So I'm gonna pull some of these comments real quick before we get into our meet. Hey, my faves. Hey, Miss Tiffany. Good evening. Good evening, Shania. We love to have you here. This hair clear. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had to get a little in between style before my graduation. I really do love your hair. Thank you so much, Shania. Jameer, yeah, you already know he came. He rocked it. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Hold on, the bar is so many comments. Oh, you all are awesome. Thank you, Miss Vivian. Thank you, thank you. Twitter and Square will be making Juneteenth a permanent company holiday for celebration, education, and connection. The CEO of both companies announced Tuesday. Wow. So we get some real recognition that's coming from a lot of the protests and things that's been going on. So I appreciate that. You all have set a high bar for influencers who may follow. You know, we got to keep raising it. Got some big shoes to fill. I know the people who come after us will be way better than us. So, hey, Mr. Ray. I'm so proud of all of you young kings and queens. Thank you so very much, Ms. Starks. And then it's a lot of quotes. Professor J, hey, Miss Star. Mr. Rodney come through with the quotes. So, okay. So before we really get into what is being said, before we really get into it, because me and Jameer usually take all the meat we be eating with these topics. For this reason, when we go in our little roundabout, me and Jameer are going last. So So I'm gonna put this little precaution. So when the rest of everybody is passing it to us, make sure you pass it to everybody else before you give it to me and Jamir. All right, now I'm about to bring it up to all of our influencers. Say hey, say hey, say hey. All right, where Paul at? There we go. There we go. There we go. Now we got all of our team up here. We are going to have to excuse Q. Q is currently on the road traveling to Grambling State University. So he's going to see his campus. So though we cannot see him, Q will be still providing input during tonight's show remotely. So we got to give big hand claps to Q. All right. So our very first topic was a continued topic. But our topic tonight is I'm not a racist, redefining racism. So racism in short is more than just hateful speech, hateful ideologies, and discriminatory actions. Racism is a whole entire system. It's a construct of different systems formally oppressing certain people or peoples in a way that they cannot ascend because of bigot or xenophobic ideologies, thoughts, actions, etc. So, with that being said, in recent times, we have been seeing an influx, especially with the implementation of things like TikTok and Instagram, Twitter, influx in bigot and discriminatory and racist practices in skits, in politics, in actions, in whatever. And the biggest thing when it's brought up is people have so many excuses on how they're not a racist. They're not a racist because they have black friends. They're not a racist because they have black boyfriends and girlfriends. They have black family members. We're being overly sensitive. They're not being racist. We're just sensitive. Why are we so hit by something that didn't happen to us? We were never slaves. We didn't have to go through the civil rights movement. So why does it still hit us like that? Why is it affecting us? It wasn't us. So when these things are brought up, how do you feel as though, the question is, how do you feel as though these things should be addressed? These dismissive behaviors, these excuses, when people say that they are not a racist, how do you feel we can properly address those things? And I'll start this off with Trinity.
By me going to a predominantly white school, we do have a lot of debates in like history class a lot. So sometimes you just gotta come at them with the truth because the truth can't hurt. But you just gotta let them know that like you would say, like some people they say, "Oh, I'm not a racist because I have black friends." Okay, you have black friends, but they act just like you. That's why you like them. You know, it's just because if they somebody of like their friends or something like that would say something racial to their friend, would they stand up for them? Possibly not. So, you just gotta hit them with facts and let them know that this is why we do this. This is why we act the way we act toward our culture. And pass that on.
Okay. So I most definitely agree, Trinity. So those dismissive behaviors, such as I have a black boyfriend or I have black friends, are just excuses used to put up a quick defense for their oppressive behaviors that have happened in the past and continue to happen. So oftentimes people like that are quick to be on the defense instead of facing the truth. They constantly deny the realities of racism. Because of this, Black Lives Matter movement turns into All Lives Matter. And I've heard and often read posts that explain the hardships that white people go through. Therefore, we shouldn't focus on the everyday struggle and fear that Black people have to face as well. First off, white privilege has helped you navigate through your struggles, and you don't have to be scared when you're pulled over or have fear running through your body when you leave the house. Their struggles are nowhere near the struggles we face on a daily basis because of the pigment of our skin. Something we are born with, something we can't change. And to be honest, I wouldn't want to. And honestly, money, fame, nor friends wash away our pigment. And I find it repulsive for them to even compare their struggle to ours or try to defend something that is wrong and that they know and understand is wrong. So I think it's time for our people to, for them to face reality instead of being on the defense, rather than, understand and accept the fact that America was built for free on the backs of our ancestors' Black bodies. And it's time to correct their behaviors instead of always being on the defense. So with that, I'll pass it on to Paul.
Okay, first of all, Ayana was spitting, but I'm gonna let you go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, like Clea said, Ayana was really like spitting flames like a dragon. So I mean, I'm kind of burning. My back kind of hurt. So like Ayana said, they've been using the excuse of having a black friend, black boyfriend, girlfriend as an excuse for their oppression, and it's really not needed because they're using it as a guard. They'll say, "Oh, I could say a certain racial slur because I have a black friend," and they're cool with that. I don't find that as a good excuse to say a racial slur. Is just not needed because we have been dealing with that racial slur for all of our lives. We've been hearing it ever since we first came to this country, and so they just need to stop. And that's all I have to say on that. I'll pass that to Q if he's there.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
So what I want to say about this is white people say, "Oh, I got a black friend or I'm dating somebody black, But, just because I like one thing out of an entire section, just because I like one thing doesn't mean I like the entire selection of it. So they could probably like one black people, but that doesn't mean they like every black person they see. So it's just a sorry excuse that white people say, as my teammates formerly said, trying to say, "Oh, racism really
We have some technical difficulties, but our brother is traveling and he is still getting the word. And unfortunately, we should be breaking the internet again, so we can't hear him a little bit. But he trying. He trying.
In and out.
He trying to preach.
He's trying though, but whatever spot he just rode next. All right, Jamie, I'm gonna let you go ahead and take that over.
Yeah.
All right, Jamie, I'm gonna let you go ahead and take that over.
Yeah. Oh, bro, Q was spitting, man. I feel like I'm cheating a little bit because I'm probably gonna say something he was gonna say. But safe travels to the brother going down there in Graham, one of the premier HBCUs out there. Not the, but one of them. Just want to throw that in there real quick before I get into this. And man, when it comes to the microaggressions that we experience from non-black people, particularly white people, there's so many of them, and they like to use cop-outs because they have proximities to blackness, or they have a token black friend, or they have a relative who is black, or they just feel like they listen to a lot of music that is black, or they feel like they're a part of the culture, so they can say things that aren't okay. And I feel like when it comes to that, you simply have to check them on it because they're typically inexperienced and they're cowardly, and they've never had another black person or any black person in general just come to them and say, "Yeah, you wildin'. You need to take several steps back in the seat, please." So when it comes to those excuses that they bring up, and it's funny when you check them because you see that they really get uncomfortable because they don't have that security of that black friend anymore. They don't have that black relationship to tie them into it, and they feel uncomfortable, and they should feel uncomfortable because most of the time being black in white America is really uncomfortable, man. So they shouldn't be so comfortable to where they can tread on our toes without impunity. And it's like, it's just a fact of the matter that when it comes to these microaggressions of white people, you have to and non-black people, because it comes from everywhere. You have to make sure that you check these people, and no matter what lived experience they have, it doesn't match the lived experiences of centuries of black oppression in America. And with that, I'll give that to my friend Khalid.
I definitely think everybody has said a word, so I'm going to be picking and grabbing from everything that everybody said. To piggyback off of what Trinity said, when faced with that, just combat it with facts. a lot of the times they try to dismantle the Black Lives Matter movement and movements to promote Black liberation with the fact that, oh, you guys are disrespecting the flag, oh, you guys are disrespecting the liberties that the forefathers fought for, oh, my great grandfather was in this war and that war and all this other stuff. But you're combating this with lived experiences of your ancestors. Like your great great grandfather was in the American Revolution. So when I speak on my great great grandfather coming from a sugar plantation, I don't see where the difference is. I don't see how my great great grandfather's lived experiences is discredited while yours is highlighted when it's benefiting you. So I feel like highlighting the facts is very big. Ayana said a big word. I don't even have to reiterate what she said. To piggyback off of Jameer and what he was talking about, just the comfort that they have with expressing these type of constructs to show how American culture has, I don't even know how to put it, how American culture has just normalized the downfall and the degradation of Black people. And so I feel like the best way to address that is first check it on site. Like, don't let anything slide. Don't let them, oh, it was a mistake. No, 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 no. No, no. Because if it was against your people, whether it was another person of color or somebody white, y'all would be quick to check it. So check it on site. Make sure that it's addressed and make sure that you follow it up with why it's a problem. Don't say it. Tell them why it's wrong to say that. Like, don't just check somebody without having a full explanation, because they won't learn from it if you don't have that follow up with it. So that's just my input on that.
One thing, Khalid, before we keep going though, is that you mentioned how they love to bring up history and things like that, and their grandparents might have fought in any of the world wars or Vietnam or the Spanish American or the Revolutionary or the Civil, and they love to admit the fact that our ancestors was out there too. Like, Black people fought in the Revolutionary War, and it's comedy to me that Black people fought in the Revolutionary War, a war for equality among all men and the liberation of America, only to be told by the same people they fought with. Exactly. So if anybody has a right to be mad about their heritage and to want to uphold their heritage and be proud about what was done, exactly. But
so Professor Q is back, so we're going to see if the connection is better. We're going to let him do his fair share.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So what I was saying was that white people say, yeah, I have Black friends, or yeah, I'm dating a Black person, but that doesn't really mean anything at the end of the day, because you can like one of something but not like the entire whole. So they can probably like that one particular Black person but not like Black people in general. And so just in quick, before any connection goes out, I'll just go ahead and wrap that up.
Yes, Q. And like Trinity had brought up, a lot of the times they are appreciative of that Black friend or that Black girlfriend or that Black boyfriend, because that person mirrors their culture more than they mirror the stereotypical versions of Black culture. So they like the fact that they can have somebody that looks like us but really acts like them. So yes, I agree with that too, Q. Our next topic is performative activism, which is especially why I wanted me and Jamil to go last, because this one hits home. This one really hits home. So, how has the recent outpour of support from these big corporations blurred the lines between true reparations and propaganda? So, just to go into a little bit of that, like how ever since George Floyd's case and this big outpour of Black Lives Matter movements, all of these protests, a ton of big corporations, I'm not even going to get into all of them, have been coming out with statements, have been saying they're donating from $50 to $100 million to different types of bailout funds and Black organizations and all this other stuff that has to do with Black people. So how does all of this support blur the lines between true and genuine apologies, true and genuine change, like they really support Black people, versus them just doing this so that they can get more of the Black dollar? And I'll pass this over to Trinity.
Most companies aren't really true to the cause that is going on. most companies just are giving money to say that they support, but they really don't, because they don't want to lose any of their money or any of their Black customers. Also, I would say that I saw a tweet. It was a thread on Twitter, and there was a bunch of Instagram models just taking pictures for a photo op and then leaving. And that's like a slap in the face, saying that you don't care, that you're out here just to get a photo op, to take a picture. One girl was she had on these tall heels and a dress, and took a picture in front of like where the military was standing and where the people were protesting at. And she just took a picture. She took a picture with a couple other people, and then she was like, "Okay, thank you." And then she just like got in her car and went away. And that's just so hurtful to what's going on now, because that's saying that you don't care. Like, yeah, I don't like that. But I'm gonna pass that on to Ayana.
So to start off, I think it's sad that performative activism even exists. Like, how can someone be morally blinded that they feel the need to act like something is wrong and then act like they're doing something about it when really they could care less? And that's a terrible thing to see. But we as a community have to be smart enough to recognize it. Oftentimes, people such as celebs and people who have a lot of influence take time to go out to protest for show to keep their following, and they do it as a publicity stunt. The Black dollar is very powerful, and we as a community have to do our research on where we should spend it. So some companies and corporations are donating to our movement to keep their customers, while also donating to Trump's campaign and racist organizations, which then contradicts what they believed. People think that they are donating money to protest bailout funds or sharing Black Lives Matter movement posts will erase or cover the 400 years of oppression that our people have undergone, or the lynchings and the killings and police brutality or hurtful words that have been said. And sorry to say, but that doesn't really help. So we need true believers in our fight for justice, and not those who just do it for publicity. So with that, I'll pass it on to Paul.
Yo, Ayana's on a roll tonight, so I just had to say that.
Ayana, you're kind of pulling a Jameer right now. Like he would leave me with nothing to eat on the plate, and I'm still picking up on sides right now. I'm on the sides. You need to save me a full course meal real quick, like please. So like Ayana said, I keep piggybacking off of Ayana because she covered the entire topic basically. So performance activism is okay, that's the term. Okay. So the performance activism is most definitely not needed. If you're gonna act like you care, you shouldn't just fake it. You should act like you care genuinely. Performative activism. Okay. My teammates just typed it in a little private chat, and I got to correct myself. So performative activism. Let me back up. Let me catch my words together. If you're going to act like you care, you shouldn't fake it. It needs to be genuine, and it needs to be something that you really are supportive about. If you're going to really support something, you have to do it for yourself and make yourself feel good. Because if you do it not for, what am I saying? If God, can I pass this?
I got you, brother. I got you.
Please,
I got you. See, look, it's good. I got you. Basically, what the brother was trying to say, and remember, man, the words don't come because it's a feeling. And my man right here, he feels so strongly, just as I do, just as we do, about this performative activism, that the tongue can't keep up with the heart. And basically, what was going on just now was what Paul was trying to say is that if you're generous at heart, then you don't need recognition for what you're doing, man. And if you should be able to go out there in the field, if you should be able to go out to a protest, and there should be no cameras, and that should be silence enough for you, because you know that and you're out there for the betterment of society and the betterment of black people, you know that what you're out there for is bigger than an Instagram like. It's bigger than a retweet. It's bigger than a share on Facebook. That's what Paul was trying to say. He wasn't piggybacking off of Rihanna. He was letting everybody know that you need to be morally in tune with yourself and society in order for you to be good. So with that being said, it's like I feel what you're saying, Paul. I feel what you're saying, man, because I feel the same way. I feel the same way. It really grinds my whole inner being when I see these companies send these, like, there was a blackout Tuesday the other day, and it was the barest of minimums. All you had to do was just post a black picture on Instagram. And so many people did that because that's what it was. It was just a black screen. You didn't have to care about black people whatsoever. You didn't have to inform anybody of anything. All you had to do was just post a black screen. And that's what I didn't like. And it's so many different layers to it, because you have the corporations, like Kalia started off with, sending these emails and giving their pocket change to black causes, while they're pulling out the big bucks on lobbyists in Washington and making sure that Trump gets elected for 4 more years so they can get another tax break. That doesn't satisfy me. That doesn't satisfy me. Just because you opening your checkbook doesn't mean that it matches what you really feel, because it's pocket change to these people. And we can break it all the way down to these opportunists that are in the crowds, even in the protests, because it's on both sides. Performative activists come out and understand this. It's COVID-19. It's a global pandemic, man. And this is why we want everybody to be safe when you go out there. But it says something about a person who simply goes out to a protest for black liberation and for black humanity, simply because, one, they've been in the house for too long and they getting stir crazy, and two, they want to make sure that everybody else knows that they down for the cause. Everybody else knows that they was there. It just doesn't make sense how you have these people who go to a protest and they don't do nothing. They might, they got on the wrong shoes to go marching with. They got a little sign, but you can tell that they put more effort into the sign than more effort into researching about the issue. So they go out there and they hold up the sign and they say, Black Lives Matter, say his name. And then they take a picture and leave. It's the performative activism that I don't like, because it's like, what are you out here for, man? Because we out here fighting for our lives and you out here fighting for space on the timeline. It's wrong to me. And it's wrong. And we need to really reevaluate how much this social media stuff means, because we are the Virtual Village 2020 influencers. We're trying to push recognition for our community and make sure that we leave COVID-19 better than when we entered it. And then you have those influencers who have platforms that are way bigger than us, and all they simply do is post a black screen and take a picture. And it don't make sense, because like Trinity said, how you gonna go to a protest in heels? That just sounds uncomfortable to me, man. Like, I know, like, brothers Malcolm and Martin, they marched in church shoes, but we don't got to do that. You can wear something comfortable, because we in here for the long haul. This is not no 1 week occasion. This is for as long as it'll take, and it looked like it's gonna take a minute. But like Paul was saying, man, like everybody was saying, truthfully, is that this performative activism needs to be called out just as much as the microaggressions of other non-black people, because it's detrimental to the movement, and it's a co-op. It's a co-op. And with that, I'll give it to Khalid.
Before I even say anything, Q, if you got any input, I'm gonna let you go ahead before.
All right. This might be cheesy, but to quote rapper Offset, people would do anything for clout. And that's all they're doing it. They're just doing it for clout, just to say, hey, I supported, I joined, so I'm not a racist, or I'm not this, and that. And that's why they do it. And honestly, these companies giving their like little leftovers to us is just nothing to me but like a shut up mechanism. It's like pretty much that's what America been doing to black people ever since we got here. It's like, all right, oh my gosh, they're complaining. Give them a little something, they'll shut up, they'll go back, sit down, and then we'll just keep on moving forward. And like Jameer said, this isn't a 1 week occasion. We in here for the long haul, however long we need to be. And that's exactly the mindset we need to have, because that's exactly what white America is going to do. They're just going to give us a little. They're going to pass one little law. Then we're going to get it. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I was about to say something else. Thank you, sir. and then they just like expect us to go on. But no, we need to keep going. And people who do this perform that I'm sorry, people who are just in this just kind of like for fun and kicks and giggles, they need to pretty much step out the way, because there's serious people who are trying to make some serious changes. And I'm gonna pass that to Kalia.
So y'all had a lot of strong perspectives, and I definitely feel you, Q, on that one. People just need to step out of the way. But just to go back to the bigger corporations, and especially people that mainly capitalize off the black dollar, people who really profit off of the black influence and knowing how much black influence is, because once you go on Black Twitter and something is canceled, it's done for. You're losing profit rapidly. So many people are trying to capitalize off that idea that, oh, we don't want to be canceled, or we definitely don't want to seem like we're taking the back seat to this issue, because if we are, our profits are going to dwindle and they're going to continue to drop. So most of that stuff is really just to keep their profits skyrocketing through the roof. And they know that if they post something, if they participate in Blackout Tuesday, if they post a little message on the forefront of their website saying that they stand with black people are going to be like, oh, let me go buy this. Let me go buy something I don't need. Let me go purchase this shirt. Oh, I can drop $300 on some Nikes because they just came out with a commercial saying that don't stand up for this stuff. Don't do this. Don't do that. So they're using that like that. And then the Democrats and Kente Cloth kneeling in chambers where they can literally make policy to make sure that another George Floyd doesn't happen. I just don't understand what that was about. Like, they're literally kneeling. Just when Colin Kaepernick was kicked out, blackballed, and his whole reputation diminished for doing the exact same thing on the field for whoever. It was way back when Sandra Bland and stuff was still at the forefront of our fight. But they get down and Kente Cloth and everybody's like, oh, they're for the people. Oh, they're so woke. First, that's disrespectful to the African countries in which Kente Cloth is ritual. You're just buying materials for Joanne fabric and repping it like you really know what it's about, and you don't. A lot of black people don't even know the true meaning behind Kente Cloth. So it's disrespectful first. Second, you're doing it in a kneeling position. You're kneeling after a black man literally lost his whole livelihood for doing the same exact thing, standing for the same exact thing. It doesn't make sense to me. Third, you are literally in a position of power. You literally have the voice to make policy that will hold police officers accountable, that will make sure that they don't just get let go, that they just don't get paid leave, but that they can never be hired as a police officer again, so that this stuff can stop. You have the ability to make sure that chokeholds are illegal, that kneeling on somebody's neck with 3 other officers in your back and legs is illegal, and you're kneeling in front of the office that you can make all this happening. It just really doesn't make sense. And as far as the other people of color, black and other people of color, just coming out of the protest just to be seen, it's really no point in doing that either. You're getting hot and sweaty for a picture that won't even mean nothing in the end of this fight. Like, you literally just have a picture, but when your kids ask you, what did you do? What did you have to sustain? You have nothing. All you have is a picture. So when it really comes down to what you did, you have nothing to share but a picture. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm gonna digress off of that one because people just really get me tight. But our last and final topic: how does our fight as Black people differ from that of the fight of other minority groups? And when I say other minority groups, I'm talking about other fights with other people of color, like fights for immigration rights, fights against discrimination when certain illnesses roll through. And I'm also talking about minority groups as far as LGBTQ fights, fight for women's rights. How does the Black fight differ from the fights of other minority groups in the way of support, like when it's time for us to fight for other minority groups versus when it's time for minority groups to fight for us? And I'll start this off with Trinity.
Trying to get my thought process together. So our fight has been I'm trying not to have another Paul moment. So our fight has been going on for over 400 years and still counting. So I think that that's why ours is the most relevant and it's the most important, because we're still struggling to this day. we still trying to fight for it to this day. I mean, and by other minority groups like LGBTQ and the other ones that you said, we've always been there to help them. But when it's our choice, when it's our time, and when it's our time to fight, where they at? You know, we've always been there to help everybody else, but when it's our turn, no one's there to help us. And I'm gonna pass that on to Paul because Ayana been spitting and Paul ain't been eating. So I'm gonna pass that on to Paul.
Thank you. Like, cause Ayana just leave me with the sides, the scraps, the table scraps. Like, golly. But all I have to say is that we've been going through the struggle for a while, and it's just been repeated. As with the other minority groups, they haven't been like immigration is it's a problem, but it's not a problem that has been throughout 400 years. If that makes sense. Like if it hasn't been repeated multiple times. It's just been one problem and it can be solved easily. It pretty much basically can be solved with a simple solution. It could just be no more immigration. If that makes sense. If I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling. But yeah, we've been dealing with this problem for the longest and we need our solution now. And we are tired of having this problem and it just needs to be faced. And so as far as support, we're the first group to support. We're in the mix of it all, basically. We're all in the mix. We're constantly in between sides. And so we just need a side to come with us and join hands with us to fight for our cause. And with that, I'll pass that to Ayan.
Wow, Paul, you said a word.
Thank you.
And so you're welcome. And so I think that our fight differs from that of other minorities because we've been fighting, like everyone else said, for 400 years, so long that we read about our ancestors having to fight for simplistic rights in our own textbooks. So being killed for their skin color. And we have most definitely progressed, but the basis of the fight still remains the same. So LGBTQ, fight for immigration, women's rights, that has a more inclusive population with people of different colors. And even then our community fights for all of them because we know what is morally correct and what is not. Whereas our fight, Black people are faced with the repercussions of being Black. And no one else can truly understand our fight, but we cannot solve this by ourselves. So overall, the population in these fights are quite different, but looking at them morally, we are the same. And it's time for everyone to come together and just know what's morally right and what's morally wrong and fight for justice for all. And with that, I'll pass it on to Q.
So the reason why our fight for justice and equality is different is because, first of all, you gotta look how we got here. We got here through cargo slave ships to be slaves to the master. So we came here to serve the higher people above us because we were automatically put at the lower part of the caste system. So with that, now you look at, because energy doesn't die out. It just goes and it reforms and it comes right back. And so now you look at it today, we Black people, we support all types of different groups, but they don't support us because they only look at us to serve them. So that's the reason why another reason why our fight is different, like I said, it was oppression. And then, but when you look at a Chinese man, his ancestors came over here and chased the American dream, and they have the opportunity to build up. But since we got here, we were automatically put at the bottom, and we had to work our way, and we're still trying to work our way. And just other groups have like little care for us, and only like a small amount really do care. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and pass that on to Jameer.
I got you, man. Oh man. Whew, I said so much, trying to see if I can gather it up real quick, keep it short and succinct. But I would say when it comes to oppression and the fight for liberation of just the marginalized groups in America, non-Black groups typically aren't as receptive to the Black cause, in the sense of Black people are Black people are part of the LGBTQ community. Of course they are. They're usually at the forefront of that. Black queer people are at the forefront of those causes. When it comes to women's issues, Black people are at the forefront because we have Black women here. And just a little history here. During the suffrage movement, Ida B. Wells, who is one of the most renowned Black women in history, if not the world, was forced to walk at the back of the line because other white suffragettes didn't think it was good for optics. And that's what it's really like. Black people are typically at the forefront because their oppression is compounded because they had the ability to be Black, which is a bigger crime in America with their other marginalization. So therefore, they're seen as lesser even in these different communities. And when it comes to the Black struggle as a whole, it's never reciprocated. Black people can go out there and fight for everybody. When the COVID-19 first came out and Donald Trump was spitting his vitriol and nativism about the Wu flu and how it was a Chinese virus and how people weren't frequenting Chinese restaurants or Asian restaurants in general simply because they were bigoted. Black people took a stand and said, no, that's not okay. We're going to stand with you. We're going to stand with you. And then when Black Lives Matter comes around, it's a lot of those same people who dragging their feet, and they're part of that same performative activist group that's just simply going out there saying, here's a black screen, but then they're also like, well, I don't feel like y'all should be looting, or I don't think y'all should be burning anything up. I don't think y'all should be disrupting the roadways. And it's like Black people are the only group in America who don't have the right to be angry without other people's advice. And what I mean by that is that everybody has a say or a way to dictate how we respond to oppression when we have been in America and oppressed the longest. So you would think we'll be experts on how things work around here, which is why everybody comes to us for help. But at the same time, they love telling us how we can get liberated. They love to tell you, well, if you would just vote more, but then they ignore voter suppression. They just say, if you just eat better, or if you just invested in your communities. But like Brother Q said, we can't do that because since slavery, we've been made and forced to eat the scraps of white supremacy. We've been forced to not even have our own wealth and to sustain ourselves off of the dregs of society. See, everyone has this bootstraps mentality when it comes to Black people, but it's all kumbaya when it's non-Black issues. So it just needs to be reciprocated. And for that to happen, these people are going to have to actually look at themselves in the mirror and be honest. Do they care about America as a whole? And do they care about the universal liberty of all men being created equal? Or are they just comfortable with their privilege and they just want a little bit more? They want a little bit more of the pie, and that's all it is. They just have to be honest with themselves on that. And before I start to go, because I feel it, I'm gonna pass it off to Kalia.
Okay, I have three ways that I fight differs from everybody else's. One, and I've seen this recently with these next steps. So after the protest, what do we do next? In these next steps movements, perfectionism. Everybody expects perfection from a people who have constantly been oppressed and constantly given the scraps and constantly having to educate themselves on something that is handed to everyone else. Everybody expects us to know exactly what to do while we're still picking up the scraps and seeing what can work and what won't work from the things that we have done. And furthermore, to delve more into perfection, when we are crafting something that will actually work for Black people, it's dismantled, it's killed, it's assassinated, it's destroyed, it's bombed, it's blew up. So whenever we try to strive to get things all together, when we're all on one accord, when we have everything planned out, as soon as it comes into fruition, something mysteriously happens. Military forces are brought out because it's so threatening, it's so terrifying. It steers people away from actually wanting to create a solution, because if you create a solution, it's like you have to pay your life for it. And a lot of people don't want to do that. Another reason our fight is different from everybody else's is it feels like we have to handhold everyone through our fight. Like everybody must be spoon-fed how to help us. And like Jamir brought up, and like my other teammates were bringing up, when people were fighting the immigration laws and the harsh things that were happening to people who were illegally immigrating into the country, and children were being put into cages, I didn't have to be put into a cage to know that me as a child didn't want to be in a cage just because I wanted a better life. My mama wanted a better life for me. I didn't have to be discriminated against because a flu virus came from Virginia to know that I wouldn't want to be discriminated against from a virus that I didn't even originate from. Like, I feel like so many people act like they have to go exactly through it to know what it is. But like the school teacher Jane Elliott used to do in her performances, she used to ask people who would want to be treated like Black people in America. Nobody wants to be treated like a Black person in America. So knowing that, that should be enough energy to make you want to fight with us, just like we fight with everybody else on their issues. We know that we aren't being treated like you, but we know we would never want to be treated like that. So we're going to stand with you so we don't get treated like that. And the last and final thing is I feel like our message always has to be co-op. Like we always have to be so inclusive with our message. Like whenever we be like Black Lives Matter, everybody wants to be like, but what about brown lives? What about people of color lives? What about white LGBTQ lives? What about blue lives? What about like, okay, I understand. A lot of people die at the hands of officers. And a lot of people want to bring into statistics that this percentage of white people die at the hands of officers and only this percentage of Black people die at the hands of officers. I'm no mathematician. I hated math. I still hate math to this day. But one thing I do know is that if you make up only 13% of the population versus people who make up upwards of 70 to 80% of the population, if 200 Black people were killed out of 13% versus 200 white people being killed out of 86%, the numbers are going to be different. It doesn't mean that those people aren't dying. It just means that it's going to show up higher in a community where they make up a lower percentage, if that makes sense. So a lot of people want to take statistics over anecdotes, like those numbers aren't skewed in a way. So our messages always have to be super inclusive, but when everybody else is fighting, we just fight for them. We just fight for immigration rights. We just fight so you don't get discriminated against. We just fight so you have equal opportunities. We never bring back the 400 years of issues and oppression that we go through every day when it's come to fight for y'all. So why do we have to include everybody into this Black issue? Like it bewilders me. It blows my mind that nobody can understand why we have to be solely Black focused. Like we weren't degraded since we got down here. But that's all I had to say on that. Did everybody get a chance to answer that question? Okay, so that was our last topic, and we're running close to an hour, but I would just like to thank everybody for tuning in and thank everybody for letting us spew our very, very passionate words onto you. I know they came off a little blunt, but this time it really hit home for a lot of us. Like we said, our internship is coming to a close. So as we have all of our influences up here, I would just like everybody to say one thing that they have gained from our virtual village since we've been a part of it. And I'll start with Trinity.
I have gained a lot of technical skills that I never even knew that were out there. I've also gained a friendship with these lovely, talented, smart people. I've also gained an insight of different perspectives across the world. You know, a lot of people, it's a great thing to hear other people's opinions that think like you. You know, it's great to also have a conversation with these people at 9:00 that can run to 10:00. You know, it was just an amazing experience, and I want to say thank you, and Ayana or Paul.
So for me, I've gained so much from this internship. So like Trinity said, just building relationships like with Ms. Starr, Mr. Rodney, with all of you guys. It was just a tremendous opportunity. And also, like you said, technical skills, because beforehand, I didn't know how to run a live, but now I do, taking people on and off the screen, handling the comments. And then it's also helped better my communication skills. So being able to communicate effectively. And so I gained a lot of things from this internship, and it's too many to say right now, but I'll pass it on to Paul.
All right. So one thing that I've gained from, well, I have a couple of things. So I've learned how to entrepreneur
Wow, broke the internet, man.
program.
Yeah, he
Miss
freezes
Star
up.
has been working with me personally. Wi-Fi. Is
Yeah,
it good?
yeah, brother, yeah.
It's a
You
good
get
shit.
on the
We're
good connections.
gonna switch over to Q real quick and then come back to Paul.
Okay, things I gained from this internship is, I mean, of course, obviously, first and foremost, the great relationship I have between all of you guys. Miss Star, Mr. Rodney, all the influencers. It's just an amazing bond we have, and that's what I cherish the most out of this internship. And then what I also gained out of this internship is pretty much what Trinity said. Some technical skills, because me and her, we like we're the ones who normally send out the links and stuff. And so like at first I was like, I don't know why I said I'm gonna be the one sending out the links. This seems too hard. And then now it's like boom, boom. It's like kind of like just easy. I can do it just like with my eyes closed almost. And yeah, just a little flex right there. But yeah, I just really like CCIA. Thank you for this internship opportunity. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass that on to Jamir.
Um, when it comes to what I've learned from CCIA and what I've gained, what haven't I gained for real with y'all? Like the connections, the virtual village, just the ability to be useful in a time as stressful and as tumultuous as this. Like I would say it's been a beauty, man. And like my sales pitch to get the job was I bring connections, but this gave me so much from next. Like just being able to connect with the influencers and everybody in the village was beautiful. But the thing that I say I would gain the most was the ability to like not hold my tongue. You know what I'm saying? Because we do have this platform to come out here and we're able to speak our lived experiences. And going to a predominantly white school, there were some things that happens where you just like a black dot on a white sheet of paper. So you just be like, I'm gonna sit this one out. I'm gonna just let them talk amongst themselves. But having this environment it's gotten me prepared for the real world in the sense that I'm not gonna sit there and let people be ignorant because I feel myself to be above it. No, I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna check you on whatever needs to be checked because it's not gonna continue to go unchecked any longer. So I would say the thing that's been given to me is the will to be able to go bar for people that Mr. Rodney and Miss Star in the village and the influence have instilled in me. So I would thank you. I'm really appreciative of everything. But that's what I would say was probably the most impactful thing to me. And I'll pass it to Kalia.
Yes, I agree with everything that everybody said. I'm very grateful to have been around so many wonderful people who are my age, who are younger, who are older, that have been a great impact to me. Y'all showed me that I got to step my bar up because it's people 15, sophomores, almost getting to where I'm at. And I'm like, hold on. These people are many geniuses. And I know that it's going to be a lot of people that come after us that are going to bring even more genius and even more perspective. So I'm so grateful that we got to pave the way for those children, giving them this platform. I'm so grateful for Ms. Star and Mr. Rodney for extending their platform to us, allowing us to have a voice in this whole thing. I'm grateful for the virtual village, a whole support network of adults who constantly uplift us and tell us that we're saying the right things when in society they try to silence us, they try to mute us. Y'all are constantly like, no, keep going. Keep saying that. Y'all right. It's okay. So I appreciate that at the utmost. I appreciate everything. I appreciate this shirt because this shirt is comfortable. And you know what I'm saying? You got to make sure you get one just in case y'all ain't know. Little plug in there. But yeah, next week is our last week of this internship. So June 19th, Friday, Juneteenth, wrapping everything up. That's so powerful. We ended on Juneteenth. But yeah, so that's gonna be our wrap up. But before we go, like we said, I want y'all to take a real close look at these shirts. Just real close. Real close. Y'all see that? Y'all want to know where to get them? We're gonna tell you where to get them. We gonna show you. We're gonna go to clevercommunities.bigcartel.com. And it's the first shirt on this featured products. First shirt, limited edition. All these doses limited edition, so you got to get them while they last. First come, first serve. And part of the proceeds from you guys' purchases will come back to support us in our future endeavors. So if you really love us how y'all say y'all do, we need y'all to cop a shirt. And we need y'all to be a part of our Juneteenth challenge. So with all that being said, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We thank y'all for tuning in, but we going to let y'all go. I got to go eat, so I'm going to let y'all go. See y'all later.
Much love, my family. Much love.